My Time Podcast with Asher Chua.
I can. I went ahead and just hit the record button so I don't miss any golden moments.
Well, good. Yeah, my technology background is not real deep, so I was like, let me get on here and make sure that this thing is operative. It's going to work, just in case I was going to have to call you.
Gotcha. Hey, I like what you're doing. I see you doing the zooming in and zooming out. I was like, okay.
Here, I'm going to tell you, I don't know how it's doing it. So that's the one thing. I was like, okay, am I doing this or is it doing it on its own? But obviously, I'm in my cave, and so
there it goes again. Okay, now it's
yeah. See, so I don't know if it's going off my body movements or just it wants to do it whenever it wants to. So
okay.
Hey, well, if I get out of focus, let me know.
Got you. Well, I was gonna say this would probably be the most how would you say interactive video recording I've done yet. Dude, he says he's not a professional, folks, but hey, he's got the camera working on its own, no hands, like everything.
Yeah. Hey, well, one thing about it, I can fake it,
Yeah.
I can make it look good.
I see you got the I see you got your T-shirt on. What's it say?
Oh yeah. We got to get you ready on.
Okay. Oh, there it is. I love it. That's nice.
That's what it's all about. That's what gets me up in the morning. You gotta get ready on. You gotta get ready for the challenges that life's gonna throw at us every day. And so, but hey, I appreciate it. How you been doing?
Man, I've been great. I feel like every day just smiling from ear to ear and like excited. I just got back for these last 10 days. I went back up to Lansing for a follow-up training that they had for the extreme execution. And I stayed there a few days past it and was able to link up with one of the newer coaches. I forget if he just got certified this January or if he's already certified, but he's a physical therapist, or not a physical therapist. He's a therapist, like clinical therapist. And his thing is that he heals people. And whenever he said it at first, he didn't have it fleshed out all the way, understanding like what his niche is and all of that. But we traded reps where I had a chance to look at his assessment. We set a time and we went through it. So he was my first assessment coaching, so to say. And from that session, we did the short little bit. He got something out of it. And then we were talking about, hey, like we should really work together because everybody has their own niche. But like more than likely, I'm going to run into somebody that needs therapy. Like everybody needs therapy. And if he understands specifically how to talk to people that are like high D, people that may be angry versus driven, because it's like you can be passionate and driven, but like if you have this anger piece that's agitating you, you really need to dig down and understand like why that is. So he has the ability to do that since he's gone through like the schooling and all of that. And I was like, man, that's a great thing.
Well, I think you just mentioned a good point. I know for a fact I'm going to run into some clients that are probably better suited speaking to somebody else that's in a different industry that's closer to what they're in. And there's knowledge there that the collaboration between us as a community to say, hey, I've got somebody that speaks your language way more effective than I can,
Right.
Yeah, let me pass you on to this individual right here and have confidence that they're going to take care of that person and do the very best. And so I like that thought right there, because I think, it's going to be a challenge to try to be able to help everybody. And so you just got to know what the niche is, and so that's, I think that's what I'm narrowing it down. You know, you can't be everything. You just got to narrow it down. And obviously, my background sales, and so I kind of cater to the sales industry, understanding behaviors right when you meet a client to determine, okay, which direction do I take this client? You know, what communication style? And it's so funny, Asher, that when I was training in the early 90s, I didn't have any information about this DISC assessment. Really, I hadn't even heard about it. But I was told that there's 4 behaviors that you need to be aware of, and we had different names for them in the auto industry. And I'll tell you the names of them. The dominant customer, we called them Mr. and Mrs. Hard Luck, because they would give you a hard time. We felt like, okay, because they wanted to do this, they wanted to test ride, they wanted to get pricing information, they want to do everything now, and but they didn't want to give you anything, no name, no number. So that's the D, Mr. Hard, Mr. and Mrs. Hard Luck. For the influencer, that was Mr. and Mrs. Jovial. They were highly spirited people. They joking, having a good time. The only problem with them is that they get off course, and you'd have to bring them back in, you know, to say, hey, okay, let's keep driving the car. We're having a good time. Now you're getting off course. You just had to keep them in between, like a bowling lane. You just had to keep them in the lane, and you would get to the cell. But it was a great time because they were highly spirited people. And so for the S's, for steadiness, we call them our social butterflies. They're the people that love to communicate, but they're going to communicate at a certain pace. They're not going to be rushed, but they're having the conversation that you have with them is they're looking for you. They're looking for that conversation. So the S's were social butterflies. And then for C's, the compliance, those were Mr. and Mrs. Analytical. They were the customers that wanted all the necessary information up front, and then they were going to go home and think about it and do their research some more. And then when they come ready to buy, if you changed up anything on that information that you gave them, they got to go back home for another 6 months. And so when I got up there and I started to understand the DISC assessment, I said, we just had a different name for these people. I kind of understand it. Now, I didn't know how to communicate with them as much as I'm learning now. But it's so canny that it's very important, especially in the sales industry, to be able to communicate with all behaviors, because only 25% of the sales that you give, you know, won't make you great. It'll make you good, but it won't make you great. And so that's why I'm loving this. I'm excited about it.
Me too. And so I mean, to that point that you just made, like what makes somebody go from like that good to great in the sales industry?
To go from good to great, just off of the thing that we're talking about, is being able to understand those other 3 individuals, because using the automobile industry, they drove up in the car, Asher. Somebody sold them something.
Okay. Yeah.
So while you're having a hard time with them, somebody has found out a way to earn their business. And so as a salesperson, if I can understand, first of all, who I am and pick out, which I was very, I didn't have a problem picking out the social butterfly, because I'm a high S. I could recognize that individual just by asking them some questions. And the first one would be asking, you know, did you see the football game last night? Oh, yeah, I saw the football game. What'd you think about it? Next thing, we're having a conversation. You see, I knew that individual. If I asked Mr. Hard Luck or D, he don't have time for the question. You know, he's not, I don't watch football. I don't do that. Give me the car. And so once you know what I'm saying? Just give me a car. You know, get the keys. Yeah. And so once I was able to identify and get comfortable in the other 3 settings, that's when the advancement of my sales took off, because there's only so many S's coming through the dealership. and I don't get them all. You know what I'm saying? I don't get them all. I get my share, but there's other salespeople. There's 22 other salespeople. And so I knew I couldn't make the living that I wanted to make just working it on my behavior. I had to adapt to the other three. And, you know, typically the I's and the C's, I didn't never really have a problem with it. But I did have a problem with the D's. It took a while because I'm trying to hold a conversation. You trying to get somewhere. You know, you just want to see the car, get some numbers and get out of here. I'm trying to, you know, have a conversation with you. And so just that aspect alone, what it did for me, once I was able to identify the types of behaviors that was coming in, it really helped me out when I got into management, because then I started to understand the behaviors of my sales staff, because not everybody that I was training was getting the message, and I struggled with, you know, A is A. Why should you get it if this other person over here got it? You know what I'm saying? But when I realized that everybody learns differently, everybody hears differently, then I had to make sure that, okay, this is how this person needs to be trained. I'm going to have to spend a little bit more time with them. So what we did, we would have 1 week, we'd have an hour or two of group training, and then periodically through the week, I would do one-on-one training with each salesperson so that, hey, what we talked about in the meeting, what didn't you understand? And then they would tell me, okay, I didn't understand what you were when you said this. So for me, it really opened up a whole nother level of understanding salespeople, because not everybody's trained the same and not everybody hears the same message. But we are asking them to give us the same results. We're asking them to be successful. And if you do not give them the correct resources that they need to go perform what they're doing, then two things are going to happen. One, you're going to lose a good salesperson just because you didn't understand him. And two, he or she is probably not going to take care of the customer, because what they don't know, they pass on to the customer. And so now you're losing a good customer. So it's very important. I think it's more important today, Asher, than it was in the early 90s. And the reason being is that the consumer has all the information to purchase a car or purchase anything. So when they come in through the doorway, they are wanting two things. One, somebody who can communicate to them. And one, do you have what I need? I got everything else done. I got the pricing. I mean, very few people come in today and they don't have the pricing down. If they don't, more power to them. But I see consumers coming in today, you know, as we say, they're more educated or whatever. That's what the internet did. It gave everybody the right to know. But what it didn't tell you is that that person still wants to be able to have a communication with that salesperson. And 9 times out of 10, if you're not the right salesperson, you may have the right product and the right price, and they still go somewhere else, because they're looking for that person that's on the same wavelength as them. Communicates with.
Otherwise, they just buy it from online or buy from the manufacturer even.
Yeah, if they could, they would. I could see real easy. You know, there's a couple. If you took a look at the 4 assessments, the one candidate that would purchase from, if they could do it, would be your C's. Because your C's would automatically, I got all the necessary information. I know this about it. I don't need any. I really don't want too much interaction anyway. You know, they don't want too much interaction, even though they want the information from you. Back in the day, you have to sit down and give it to them, write it out. Now they go get it, and then they have less questions when they're coming in, and more importantly, they're not asking questions to get more information. They're just trying to validate that you know that they know what they're looking at. They're really going to say, here, I already know about the car. Let me tell you about it. I just need you to validate that I know it and stuff. And so, but yeah, I think it's for sales and human resource and hiring.
Yeah.
How important is hiring? Not that I know some companies make their final decision whether they'll hire an individual or not. I struggle with that at times. I think once I know who you are, and I think you have some qualities that work for us, I just need to adapt some training things to you, because heck, I'm that same individual. I took a test to get into the industry, and they wouldn't take me. So I kept coming back asking for the job 3 days in a row, and finally they said, well, heck, you act like you want the job, I'll just hire you. But here's the parameter. You know what I'm saying? You know, I didn't pass their test either. You know what I'm saying? But my why was pretty big at that time. I needed something. And you know, my why superseded everything, and that's how I was able to be successful in the automotive industry, because when you look at my assessment test, you wouldn't think this was the industry I would have been in and would have been successful, you know. So that's kind of neat when you look at those and say, hey, this is what kind of they think you should be in. What do you think? You know, and there might be a few people that, hey, that you know, that matches up to me, or, well, I don't even like those, but it's interesting. So, but yeah, that's good. And as far as you, how did you get into wanting to know more about the DISC assessment thing?
So I actually took the DISC assessment back in 2000. I forget it. It's either 2019 or I want to say 2018. So the person that introduced it to ET, he made it available to us. So like you could go through him, kind of like we have the opportunity to now. So like you could take the test from him, and then he would do the assessment with you. So his name is Chris Daniel. He passed. I believe it's 2018. But before he passed, I was able to do a session with him and two of my family members. And my thing was just that, like, I wanted to know, like, as ET kept talking about it, I was just like, man, I need to know about this. Like, if you can take a test and it can tell you more about yourself, like, I want to know, like, about myself, what I'm doing right, what I'm doing wrong, and like how I can improve. And upon taking it, I realized that I'd taken it for my first job that I got hired out of college. But the big difference was just like the amount of time and attention spent on the details of actually like explaining to you what the test means. Because I remember we did ours just like during a day of orientation for like 30 minutes. And it was like, okay, answer these questions. This is your profile of like who you are. And that was just like, it's like, this is you. And there was no explanation as to like, this word is good in this regard, or where you have certain limitations. Like here's what you can do to counteract it. It's almost like you just got a bad report card. And I was like, that's probably why I didn't try to do anything with that, because I was just like, okay, like here's more of what I already knew, or more of what I didn't really want to know. Because a lot of times you find people that are like myself that are like high S and high C. They see the D as attractive, because in business that's kind of what drives the business. But a lot of time, especially for a new hire, somebody coming in, they're looking for people to just be like the drivers, but not enough time is spent on speaking to the people that keep the business afloat and keep the business even going forward and transcending the industry to say, okay, here's what's going to change over time, and here's what we're going to have to do to maintain it. Like, I just felt like a lot of times too much attention is placed on one aspect of it and not the other three. And the beautiful thing that I've seen going through the training and understanding, oh, okay, like regardless of what you are, one, it's important that you know who you are. And then from that, it's good for you to know where you best fit in and who you need to have around you, to where you guys can like really gel together.
Exactly. Yeah, I think you're dead on it as far as wanting to know what your strengths and weaknesses. I've talked to a couple people already that they don't want to know. You know,
Yeah.
they don't want to know their strengths and weaknesses, or you can call them your talents and your non-talents, whatever it is. But if if you're able to have success like you are right now, how much more success would you have if you knew that there's a couple things that's holding you back from really knocking it out the park? And you know, and I think of athletes, you know, and not just athletes, but everybody kind of caters to it. Mm-hmm. Those athletes aren't going to these personal trainers and personal coaches because they just want to give them their money. They're going to them and say specifically, I run a 4.640 right now. I need to be able to run a 4.4. How do I get there?
Yeah.
And that's the same thing in business. You're selling 10 cars a month. I'm going to give you some strategies based upon your behaviors. I'm going to put those strategies so that you understand how to effectively utilize them so that you can get to 15 cars a month consistently.
Right.
How much more would that be worth to you? And when you talk to salespeople, they always want to get better. You know, they always want to, you know, if they're trying to advance in their career, they know results is kind of one of those diameters that gets viewed. Now, also, you got to be well-rounded. You got to be coachable and trainable. But results is what gets the eyeball on you. And it was kind of the same thing for me. Results was what got me into conversation about possibly moving into management. But there were certain other things I needed to address before they would put me in there to make sure that I was well-rounded. And even when I got in there, I still made a bunch of mistakes. You know, I was like, ooh, I'm overwhelmed here, you know. So my S was coming out of me, which I didn't know. You know, I'm trying to be paid, but, you know, I got 15 people. I got to keep them moving at a faster pace. And so it brought a little anxiety to me for a little while until I was able to, you know, adapt to it or make it more naturally my style. But I think that understanding who you are allows you, it allows your mind to move in areas that you didn't think was possible once you know that this is what's holding me back. Because we've all had that conversation, you know, if you haven't. You know, my father was good at saying, hey, you know, if you would just get out of your way, Avery, you might make something happen. Yeah. Well, if you just, you know what I'm saying, if you just knew who you were, you might make something happen a little bit more. And so it's if you knew what being in your way actually meant, because it's like people from the outside, a lot of times they can see it intuitively, but people may not know how to like communicate that to you, or even when they do communicate it to you, it might just come off like, well, what right do you have to be telling me this, that, and the other? But then when it's written down on something based on a test that you took, then it's like, oh, okay, like I can accept this because like I made the choice to take this route. Exactly, and you know, and I think it's you know, I think it's always fair to let them know, hey, I'm still working on me. You know, while I'm speaking to you, I'm working through my non-talents. You know, and I'm trying to increase my talents because I want to have a successful career, and you know, I want to have a better life with my family, my spouse, my kids. You know, I'm in the process now of having them take it, and so I'm getting excited to actually view what it shows about them, because I kind of have an idea who each one is, but it's going to be real interesting to see how it comes on paper. And then, more importantly, they want to know because they're young. They got a lot of life and a lot of career that they're trying to get to, and if they can start now bettering themselves, I think it's incredibly important to know. So I think it's huge stuff. Yes, it's really huge stuff like that. And so, what do you want to do with what you're learning? I know you got your podcast. I see your podcast. Yeah. What do you want to do? So the main thing that I want to do, especially for this first quarter, is to use it on myself and use it in a way to master myself, because in doing the podcast, it was really
a vehicle or an avenue to do something that I enjoyed. Like I enjoy listening to a lot of podcasts. I was like, oh, it would be great to interview people that I'm just meeting or just interview friends like on a consistent basis over and over to where like we're able to have great conversations, talk about who they are. But now like having this tool, I'm like, okay, eventually I'll be able to have better conversations and better conversations with people overall, because like now I have an idea of who I'm talking to, and I know like how to talk to them to make them comfortable to where they don't feel like maybe they've got to put on or, oh, like if I know I'm talking with somebody that wants to keep it short and simple, just let them keep it short and sweet. If somebody wants to go on for longer, like let that be a possibility. But it definitely, for me, is to have that the flexibility to understand where I am and where I best fit in, and to avoid like future landmines, like things that I've fallen into as a how would I say, like hindrances or just issues that I've had in the past. And it's like, oh, okay, even in using the assessment and kind of going through, I believe it was last week. Yeah, last week I went through and I did my first coaching session. So I believe it was 4 in one day. And I quickly found out after having a conversation with one of the coaches, it's like, I'm working in my adaptive as being a coach, and also if I haven't taken the time to really prepare ahead of time, like that really drives the anxiousness up. And that's not something that's sustainable to where you're constantly adapting. And it's one of the things that's highlighted in it to where it's like the more you work in your adaptive and not your natural state, where you're just operating on your subconscious mind, it really, that's the reason for stress. Like that's where all of that comes in. And being able to know that now and kind of seeing what's happened within the last 6 years, I'm like, oh, wow, okay. So if I'm here, I can do that long term because it doesn't require too much, but I can still coach somebody. But instead of doing like a big group or just like back to back to back, now I know, okay, just do one a day, plan it out like days ahead or weeks ahead. And now I've got a game plan. And
that's right.
Those are the main things that I wanted to do with it. Apply it to myself, and then be able to leverage it in conversation, and also have clients that match me to be able to build another stream of income. But most importantly, help the people to just understand, like, hey, this is what's going on with you personally, not only there, but this is what's going on with you in your home life. This is what's going on with you in your work life. And like, here are some adjustments that we can make. And like, as soon as you see it, it's just like, no, this isn't real. It's like, it is real. It's been around since the 1920s.
That's right. Yeah. And you're absolutely correct on that, because I didn't realize they'd been around that long until I looked it up, right when I first started wanting to know more about it. And, you hit on a key point about the stress level, when you are working in an environment that is totally against your natural behaviors. In the beginning, everything seems fine, but then you hit that wall. You hit that wall, and that wall is everything starts to upset you, starts to bother you, it's picking at you. And that's where I think, and then that's what I think. That's where I had a couple of friends, they were making good money. I'm going to say well over 6 figures a year, and they just left. And I remember asking them, I said, well, why'd you quit? And they said, I wasn't having any fun. The money didn't matter anymore. It's because they were doing something totally different than who they were. And when I first got in the automotive industry, finally the manager who decided to hire me because I kept coming back asking for the job, he told me, he says, I'm going to let you know, here's where you're going to struggle. And he laid it out. He says, you're going to have a hard time here based upon your behavior, but your hustle and your why is going to carry you a little ways, but then you're gonna hit that wall. And I remember within the first 18 months to 2 years, you know, I was looking for a different job, you know, out of the auto industry, and actually had got a job out of the auto industry. I hadn't exactly accepted the offer, but the day I came in to let them know that I was going to be leaving and accepting this new offer, they made me the manager. And I was the manager. It was making twice as much pay. And I thought, well, you know, I wanted to be a manager. Well, let me just go ahead and stay. But then I started to recognize and you know, luckily my wife, she would let me know when she could see that the stress level was coming on. You know, you know, she could tell, and that's when I knew, okay, you got to change some things at work. You know, you got to do what you love to do. And what I really love to do once I got in management and everything, I started moving up, was the training. Because the training always kept me mindful and kept me at ease, and I could help the other people. And so getting in there and getting into the negotiation and the closing and all that, I could do it and everything, because, you know, that's how I made a living. But I got more satisfaction as a salesperson who had never sold anything before, and now here he is successful, you know, changing his lifestyle, his career, and his life at the house. That excited me more than, you know, getting in there and really, you know, all the closing and stuff. And so that's what's kind of got me where I'm at today, you know, wanting to help, you know, salespeople who, there's a lot of processes in sales. You got to go from A to Z. But the one thing that's not being taught right now is this: you need to understand behaviors before you can even get into your processes. You need to know who you're communicating with, because you may have to change your processing style up. And what I mean by that is, sometimes if you're talking to a certain customer, your process don't work. You got to give them the price right up front. And according to your process, that's step number 22. But this customer doesn't want it. He's not going to let you go through these steps. You
might as well skip those first 20 steps and just get right there. It's like, yep, this is what you need right now. Let's close. Let's get on with it.
Exactly. And in your mind, you're like, well, no, my boss is going to be upset if I just go right to the price, you know. And then you go tell your boss that he just wants the price, and your boss doesn't understand, because he doesn't know who you got out there. He's like, hey, no, bring him inside, do the process, and next thing you know, it becomes a confrontation, and then the customer just leaves. And you're wondering why you didn't get the deal. It's because you didn't handle it right from the beginning. You know, we had a saying: what starts bad ends bad. You know, you got to start this deal right. And I think if with salespeople, if they would just focus in on understanding, okay, I got this type of customer in front of me, and let me adapt this process to this customer, and not feel that they have to just follow that one process, because 75% of your people are walking back out the door because you wanted to stick to this process, and you didn't care enough about me to change it. Yeah. And so, you know, that's what I really like about what we're doing, and, you know, and that's what Get You Ready On's about. You know, it's about motivating these salespeople and inspiring them to take on the challenges, you know, that life is throwing at us every day. And, you know, and when the time comes and the moment arises, will you be ready? Because that's what it's about. Will you be ready when that customer comes through? You know, you get one a day, you need to be ready. You know, like you were saying, if I'm going to have and you said a great word, I'm going to put a game plan together, and I'm going to have this one customer a day instead of having 4 of them and no game plan. If you only get one customer a day, you want to be ready for that one. You need to have your game plan ready, your mind right, and understand I get one shot at it, and I need to hit it. You know, I need to hit it out the park. You know, I get one shot at it. You know, and then be able to adapt to whatever they come with, and still get the sale, but know that, hey, I had to overcome some challenges, but I got it. You know, I figured them out. You know, there was times where I would start the process wrong, and I'm like, okay, me and this customer right here, we're having some issues, you know, and I need to change my style, because they're not going to change theirs. They're not going to change their style to match you. You have to change your style to match them. Hate to say it, it's their money, you know?
Yeah, that's true. And back to what you were saying before, I remember the first time I heard this saying, I kind of got offended because I'm one person that like abide by the rules and things like that. But somebody had told me once it's better to ask for forgiveness than for permission. And I didn't understand that at first, but now it makes sense because in that scenario where you have somebody that's trying to go through the procedures, if you break the procedure for the benefit of the client and you go back to your boss and be like, here's a check, I don't think the boss is going to be too mad about like, hey, you got a check, you got the commission, and you sold the car, rather than, oh, hey, boss, like, let's have this confrontation and bring them in. They want this, but here's what we're supposed to do. It's like you cut out all that extra stuff and just being able to have that flexibility, or at least having it in your head to be like, oh, okay, like there's another way to do this, and it doesn't always have to be like one way.
Exactly. We had got to the point, Asher, to where we would have, 2 or 3 different managers who had different styles. So when the salesperson came out of the office and we said, okay, who do you got? Yeah. We didn't want them to tell us what car they were buying and all that. We wanted to know, how do we talk to this customer? And he said, oh, okay, don't send Bob in. Bob will run him out of here.
Right.
Let's call. You know what I'm saying? Don't send Bob.
Yeah.
Let's send Jamal, and Jamal will match up even better. And and as a manager, I loved it. If you told me, hey, no, Avery, you can't go in on my customer because you got a bad mojo or something going on. You and that customer are going to have a conflict. I'm fine with it. You're not hurting my pride. You're not. At the end of the day, we got to sell, but more importantly, that customer who we're asking him to send us clients back, that's what he's going to go home and say, hey, it was the easiest. When you hear somebody say this, that was the easiest time I ever had buying a car. It didn't have anything to do with the price.
Right.
It didn't have anything. It's just when they came in, they met the right salesperson, and they had the best time buying. Matter of fact, they didn't even know they'd been there 4 hours.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Most of the time, they're ready to go. But they, take your time. It's more cost.
Right.
But that's what happens. They're spending $50,000 and hey, we're having a good time.
That's hilarious because
it's the problem.
I was just gonna say the first time I went to buy a car, I go to this dealership. I had a friend drop me off because like we kind of drove up, and this is like on a Saturday morning, and all the sales guys are just there like under a tent, just like ready, and they just look like sharks ready to eat. And I was like, I don't know how I feel about this. I just feel like as soon as I step out of the car, they're just gonna swarm on me, like you smell blood in the ocean. So then what I asked my friend to do is like we were leaving, and I was like, you know what, like let me just go over there and check it out. So I had my friend drop me off around the corner, and I just walked into like the car lot. So they're kind of like, what the heck? Like you didn't come out of the car? Like how'd you get here? And then I'm going around, and I'm just like, oh, I want a car for like a used car for $12,000. And they're kind of looking at me like, I either said 12 or 10. They're like, you're not serious right now, are you? Like, what do you think this is? Like Chuck E. Cheese? You just come in here and just have whatever? It's like, we're selling cars. We're not selling like whatever you think. And the experience with the person that I was riding with, he was I think a retired officer, and he's like real built and everything. He was real charismatic and everything. And I'd already made it up in my mind where I was just like, I'm not buying anything today. Like I literally have plans to go somewhere else, but I want to see what's there. And it was a nice like 2013 Chevy Malibu. And I was like, man, this is a nice car. But I want to just have like that power to walk away and come back. But like as we're doing the test drive, and I'm like, oh, I'm not interested in buying. Like conversations completely died. It's like he wasn't trying to get me back or nothing. It was just like, I'm not talking to you anymore. And like come back, park it, and I called back. I either got a call back later because it was like, oh, okay, like, hey, this might change. And I was like, I'll think about it later because I'm going out of town. And as soon as I got back, somebody else had showed up that same day and bought the car. And I was like, well, you win some, you lose some. But definitely the second experience went much better because it was just like the person, he was ready to sell me, but at the same time, I'd say they did about equally. It's just I put myself in a like lose situation where I was renting a car and then I returned it, or I was on my way to return it, so I was like, I have to buy a car in order to go home. So like whatever he was putting in front of me, which is what I'm in now, the Toyota Corolla, and I was like, hey, I guess that'll work. So I was like, hey, it worked out, and it's been good to me now about four coming up maybe 5 years soon. Well,
and that's good because I'll be honest with you. Sometimes the auto industry can get they can get a bad reputation, and deservingly so in some occasion and things of that nature. But the process, the way it is today, the consumer has total control over it. We can't make you do anything. You can't force you to do anything, and that's what I tell the salespeople. Just be yourself.
Right.
Just be who that customer thinks you are, because they have all the control. I used to like it when they say, well, hey, are we going to write this up, or what are we going to do? We just going to keep talking? I'm like, okay, I didn't know you wanted to buy it. You didn't say it. No, I want to buy it. Oh, okay. Those are the great experiences. Yeah, you have the other ones that sometimes go awry, but I think that's where this whole process, this is personality assessment that we're talking about, and how, man, it can just motivate you and inspire you. And then I'm telling you, not only am I using it for, the sales training and everything, and combining it with Get You Ready On, and then being able to do some speaking with Get You Ready On, and just motivate everybody to find out who they are. And I like the fact that they are starting to administer some of these tests earlier, to I think what's the earliest, maybe 10, 11, 12 years old, they're thinking maybe start having testing.
I mean, I think 10 years old is probably the earliest, but really the criteria for it, even like if you're 8, you can be able to take it so long as the child has an understanding of what the words mean for the test. Because this Saturday in Atlanta is going to be the first tour date that they do for the school days event, because that's ET is going away from like working with corporations, the sports teams and things like that, in order to put more focus into the school systems and really like kind of flip it on its head to be like, okay, the school system hasn't evolved since like the 1800s or 1900s. Like the classroom's exactly the same. Okay, you have a whiteboard here or a smart board or something, but it's like the way that school and education's been taught, it's like nothing's really evolved. So I think it's a beautiful thing that he's doing, going into the school system, and you have coaches like ourselves that are trained specifically on the school end, and to have people to be like, okay, you'll get the kids, they have the book, You Ain't the Boss of Me. I finally got my hands on a copy after like hearing about it, and like,
I need to
exactly. I think they have it on the website, but being a coach, I'm sure if you reach out to Val or E, like the people that do the background, because it's like there's your S's and C's, is like that's who you need to talk to get the information, because like you might get excited talking with E, but then he may not have like the details for you, but
that's right.
They may be able to get you that information to where you can get it to either like more people if that's what you want to do. But just with it being available to people that are from like 10 to 20, that's a huge gap to fill, because so many people when they're growing up, it's like, oh, what do you want to be? Like, I want to be a fireman. I want to be, well, some people, they might want to be a unicorn or a princess. And it's like, you might not be able to do those things because like certain fairy tales, they don't kind of play out that same way in real life. But now actually seeing something like, okay, you can be an accountant, you can be an engineer, like that pairs up perfectly with somebody that's in the STEM fields. Like I came from the STEM field, which is engineering, and seeing like, I saw people quote unquote doing engineering or like just working on little projects, and it was interesting. And I was like, I happened to fall into something that I liked, and I just kept doing it. And then I just picked a random major going into college, and it's like, oh, this is cool. Other people were like, oh man, I can't stand this. And I'm like, I'm just going to be quiet over here and keep working in the corner because like I'm enjoying it. So like, don't ruin my experience. But if you feel like it sucks, like, okay, maybe it sucks for you.
Well, and I think that age group that you're talking about, that 10 to 20, with the internet and its influence on everybody, but really that age group in there, because they're tied to it, and them looking at stuff on the internet, you could be this, you could be that, and they start to think that's who I want to be right there, but they don't know that really they may not be based upon who they really are. Now, doesn't mean you can't strive for it. Doesn't mean you can't put it out there. But at least you need to know, okay, this is really who I am. I can get there, but there's going to be requiring some work to get to that. And I think the internet kind of gives off some false pretenses on who people are. We all can be movie stars or influencers or whatever. But the reality of it is, some of us are struggling with some. I myself, I had a reading disability, and I had speech classes all the way up through high school, because I had it and stuff. And so, I wanted to be something different too, but I couldn't speak as well as I needed to be, and I didn't have the confidence to stand in front of people and speak at that particular time. And so it kind of changed. That's kind of where my behavior was set in stone as far as pace and my S. Right there is how it all came about, just having the difficulties with my comprehension and things like that. Then, the auto industry, went a whole different direction. But, I think that education program that E.T. and his team has put together, definitely I want to be able to join in on that. I'm part of a volunteer program for WIS kids here in Oklahoma City. And what we do, we tutor minorities, most of them are Spanish, that they struggle with reading and writing because they don't have anybody to work with them when they go home, because the parents speak all Spanish. And so we work in this program, and a couple things that you notice with them due to the fact that they can't speak as well or read as well, is confidence. And when you don't have self-confidence, then you can become I won't say an introvert, but you don't want to speak out in front of anybody. So you learning to read out loud is very difficult. And I think these programs that ET has will allow them to, one, know, hey, this is an industry that you could possibly work in. Get them excited about reading, get them excited about learning, and going through these struggles that they're going through right now. So, I'm 100% behind that program. I think it's real neat that what ET's doing, learning who you are early, or what some of your behaviors are, is a game changer. It's a game. Then for parents, for parents trying to raise one too, now now you know
what you're dealing with.
Yeah.
Well, okay, this wasn't so impossible, because I think I got this book, The 5 Love Languages, and like I read it, but I didn't really, like, I studied the first part of it, and I'm thinking like at some point in the year I'm going to go back to it. But back to what we were talking about earlier, I'm just like, okay, I just got to focus on one thing. Like once I master that thing, like once I have a better understanding of myself just for like this first quarter, I'll put that on autopilot, and then I can pick up something new to be like, okay, this is the new thing. Because in the past, it's just been, you have a whole bunch of ideas, and then I'm just trying to do all of them, and it's like playing whack-a-mole. Like, okay, maybe I get this one, maybe I don't get that one, and then when it all falls apart, it's just like it just doesn't work. So even to that point with the podcast, for example, I started it back like first episode I ever recorded August of 2019. And then in September, like I really ramped it up, and I was just like, okay, let me reach out to anybody that I can talk to and just be like, hey, do you want to be on the podcast? Just want to catch up, get to know you, different things like that. And like, again, that the strain acting in my adaptive, like just being go get it, like it quickly hit me. By the end of September, I was like, whew, I'm worn out, like not sleeping as much, or just drained at the end of the day. And I was like, okay, let me pull back a little bit. Let me just do like maybe 3 a day, or maybe 3 in a week, and just kind of like pace it out. And it's like, okay, that's where my strength is at. It's like, I might not be the person that's driving, but I understand like how to like make people comfortable, or just make it easier on myself to deal with certain things. And like you were saying earlier, a lot of people look at the superstar, but a conversation that I've had with a mentor of mine and different guys is that a lot of times people look at the person that's holding the microphone or that the spotlight's on, but nobody's thinking about like who built the microphone, or like who set the stage for that whole event to go on. It's like there's actually more money behind the scenes than it is what you see. And you have, for instance, like basketball players or football players, since those are like the two popular sports, even baseball, golf, and things like that. The people that have the longest careers in those things are the people that aren't playing. You have like the scorekeeper, the referee, the people that are working concessions, the announcer. Like those people, they've been there for maybe 20 plus years, and they're not worried about pulling a hamstring, not being able to show up for the game. And it's like that avenue, it works for the people that it works. And I mean, it's a very tight funnel, but I think as people begin to understand who they are and kind of look at different jobs as not something you look down on, but even like a janitor, for instance, like if the janitor's not there, like you're going to be in bad shape. Like some people will be like, oh, like they act like everybody doesn't use the bathroom or whatnot, but it's like, okay, go to the bathroom, don't clean up after yourself, and then see how uncomfortable it is. Like you go into a restaurant where somebody hasn't cleaned up, or a gas station, and it's terrible. You're like, oh my God, I wish I could pay for a janitor to be here. Or like you don't even want to go there, but just to have like the understanding that somebody, whether they wanted to or not, they took it upon themselves to like go clean up after somebody else. It's like that's powerful. And that's why I really wanted to do this, because I'm like, I just respect people that care about themselves and they really care about what they do, because it's like for somebody to do something in and day out without recognition, and they understand that, hey, I've got children to take care of, I've got like, they're just proud to where like they can go and they put their kids in school. Their kids are like the top earners, top this, top that, and they just work in the background, like in places you would never know, like you may never see their face, and like they're just covered in dirt, mud, muck, and all that. But maybe they're having a picture day for their kids, and like that's the one picture that they have online, or they have like a family picture. Otherwise, like they're not online, they're not on social media. And the thing that's just good to let younger people coming up, or even adults that may have just kind of lost in the shuffle of like everything that's going on now. It's like there used to be a time when all the distractions weren't all the rave. And this is simply a reminder that like, regardless of what comes, if we have flying cars in 2020 or 2030, it's like people are still people, and you need to deal with them as such. It's like, we're not machines yet, we're not robots. And even if we become that, like until we get there, let's do our best to maintain what we have and not lose the humanity factor.
You're exactly right, and that's why I say a lot has changed in the sales industry as far as how cars are made, how business is done, what the internet has done for. But the one common denominator still is people.
Yep.
And without these people coming through the door and meeting somebody that they can have a conversation with, it's going to be real terrible if you cannot communicate with those people and earn their business and stuff. And then and not so much just sales, just life in general. Because the one thing that I noticed on my ads, it talks about pace and it talks about consistency and things of that nature. The one thing that I prided myself on is when I was selling is that the manager would always say, okay, how many are you going to sell? How many, they want to know at the beginning of the month what your goals were. And they would always say, oh, I already know what your goals were. Let's get to the next person. Because I'm consistently getting my goals.
Right.
I wasn't one that, we have a bad month, then a good month, and then I consistently got it. And so when I first looked at my assessment and I saw that, I was like, yep. I'm not going to be the first. Hey, I'm not going to be the first one done. I'm not going to be the last one done, but it's going to be done. Yeah. I take pride. I take pride in that, and I think no matter who you are, take pride in it, be motivated, and use it to inspire others around you. Because I'm an S with my eye. My eye is right below my S. And I love to inspire. That's why I love to train. That's why I love to see people succeed when they didn't think they could. Because I think we've all been there where you had that one mentor when everybody else gave up on you. They stood by you. They kept pushing you. They wouldn't let you. They wouldn't let you go. I'm not letting you go. Matter of fact, we're gonna go hip to hip. Where I go, you go. But you're gonna get it done.
Right.
And and I've got one of those mentors from high school, and my speech teacher, she's one of my mentors from high school, just would not let me use the fact that I had a reading disability and a comprehension and competency for not being successful in life. They weren't buying it. And so that's what we need to do. We need to take our wins when we win, and give that to somebody else. Now that you've won, you go inspire and motivate somebody else, and that's what Get Your Radio On is all about. It's just helping each other. Hey, get your radio on. Hey, you have a bad day? I had a bad day, but tomorrow's a better day. We'll go swing at them tomorrow. You don't win every day, but if you don't get up, you ain't gonna win no days.
That's true.
You got to get up, and so, but yeah, this is I'm happy to be on here. We sat across up there in Michigan, and got a chance to meet you. I remember telling the wife I came home. I said I need to get on his podcast. I said he got a podcast going on and stuff, because that's something that down the road I'd love to do. Like you said, try to not get too many things going on. Function under one and stuff. And so definitely anything I can do for you, Asher. Let me know, and the community group that we got and stuff. I need to get on one of them calls. I didn't know the calls was on Monday. I missed it.
Yeah. I missed this one too, but luckily they've got the replay in there, so I was getting ready to watch it.
Yes, exactly. Because I need to go deeper. Need to go deeper and stuff of that nature. And so, but yeah, I appreciate the time and everything like that. And I'm hoping to catch up with you at another one of these events. And
for sure.
Are you going to the first tour with the education in Atlanta? Are you going to be there?
Yeah, I will be there. I wasn't planning on it, but it looks like I'll be there. And if I can, I'm going to help a friend with something else. But if both things happen to be there, I'll just be at the ready to help.
Yeah. Well, definitely. If you're there, I was just going to, reach out to you and, see how it went. And I'm sure probably ET and them have some stuff on. Yeah, they'll probably have some stuff on the website about it, just to kind of get a feel. But yeah, I need to get my You Ain't the Boss book. That's for sure.
Right. And I want to say that's on the website, but definitely I'll let you know how it goes afterwards. And I've got to get you back on here to get your backstory, because I was like, I guess that's the beauty of it, just being able to like have somebody on and be like, oh man, there's so much more we can talk about. So it's like,
it
just kind of just builds one thing after another. But I'll definitely let you know what happens this weekend, and it should be something amazing, because it's being kicked off, I think, on Martin Luther King Day or before, because today's the 15th.
Yes.
And then 5 days, or no, that might be before, because I think MLK Day is the 20th, maybe. MLK Day is the 20th. Right, and I think that's why they're starting it in Atlanta and doing it during that
makes
time.
Sense.
So that makes sense. So I'm sure it's going to be something wonderful.
Well, yeah. They should be real proud. They should be real proud of what they're trying to do, and I don't use the word trying. What's going to get done over the course of time. When you start, I never thought about it. What you said, the system, the education system's been the same. You start here, you end up here. You get elementary, junior high, high school. There's been a lot of educational changes, but that's pretty much the standard.
Even like corporate trainings, for instance, like I've been to so many plants, like paper mills, power plants, nuclear plants, and they put you through like the safety orientation that you do, and they pop in this video. It's from like 1980, like same thing, and it's like you do your best not to fall asleep. If you fall asleep in there, more than likely that's your job. But it's like so many things need to be revamped. But at the same time, it's like we just do one thing at a time. And I think the more like things get with the time, like the better people will probably see, like having that rejuvenation of saying, oh, okay, like people are interested in these things, and like you can pair people with jobs. It's like there's plenty of jobs and there's plenty of things to do. But like once you understand the human aspect and stop like trying to put people as like just gears and spokes and just like you just part of the clog, you're just a number. It's like, when you get away from that and you rehumanize things, it's like, oh, okay, that's what was missing.
Well, and you think about today, when I was growing up, if you had more than one or two jobs on your resume, you were a job hopper, and they didn't want to hire you. Look today, a person may have 4 or 5 jobs or more within the last 2 years. And it's okay. Things have changed, and then this generation that's coming up, they're leading it. They're like, hey, I need to check you out. I need to see if this is a good fit.
And I mean, at the same time, some companies are doing the same thing, especially if it's like a startup company where it's like, we got to get you here for doing this. As soon as you kind of do what it was intended to do, like, okay, you're out, the next one's in. So it's like, there are no guarantees per se. So it's like, you got to just keep it moving. If you think maybe you're going to come in, and I almost didn't understand what people meant when they say you get like health benefits, you get this insurance benefit, because it's like, it doesn't seem like it initially, just because it's like, oh, like by benefit, I just understood like money in my pocket and not money coming out of my pocket. But then once you have a chance to look at it and be like, oh, okay, so like when the company pays insurance, like when I buy my insurance through the company, like I only pay like a quarter of the price versus they're paying 3/4 of the price. And I'm like, oh, now that makes sense, because I asked the question, and it goes back to that communication thing where you may ask a question and it doesn't get answered, either because you didn't ask it the right way, or like maybe what you were asking just wasn't understood. And it's like, okay, now it makes sense. So like, if you want to start a company, you can, but there are certain things that you got to overcome. And once you
Exactly.
overcome them, it's like you got to maintain what you've got going on. But at the same time, it's important to understand the companies that are already here and they exist, like if they can be improved upon and maximized, it's like we don't necessarily need to reinvent the wheel. But
That's right.
if core values don't agree, like by
Yeah.
all means, don't compromise your core values just to do something. But
That's right.
yeah,
Good
this
stuff.
was
Well,
fun.
definitely. Well, appreciate it. Appreciate it, Asher.
Likewise,
Hey, hey, you know, obviously, I think you're an S too, right?
Yep.
Is that your high point?
It's
S?
right there with the C. It's like just
Right.
they're off. Yeah, the first time
Yeah.
I took it, I was 99, and I want to say that's the most authentic because I took my time to look up all the definitions because I was like, I think I know what these words mean, but let me just be sure. Like, because it's like some things, they're like some words they're very similar to each other, and I'm like, what's the difference? Like this one's most, this one's least, and it's like just when I had the understanding, I was like, okay, that's me. Yeah, like like anybody that knows me will tell you like, yeah, I'm a C. Like whenever I go shopping, like I organize my stuff so I can see.
Written down.
I might write it down, but even like putting stuff in the shopping cart, like I've got it in order to where I can look down and be like, okay, that's what I bought. Otherwise, it's like I'll spend like $50 or $30 or $100, and it's like, where did all that money go? But now when it's organized, it's like, oh, okay, that's how much I'm gonna spend. Yeah. Well,
organization is not one of my big skills, so you know, I'll leave that alone. You know, so that, but it's incredible, and then the reason why I say that because I can tell that we could talk all day because that's what S. That's what we.
Some people say, oh, they're introverted. They don't talk a lot. It's like, no. Just give us something that we agree on, and be talking to somebody that's similar to you. It's like it can go all day.
That's exactly right. But well, good. Hey, well, let me know how everything goes in Atlanta, and I look forward to hooking up with you again, and watching your podcast grow. If anybody's out there listening to this podcast, you got to hook up with Asher. He will take care of you. I appreciate your time today.
Oh, let the people know where they can find you.
Okay. You can reach me at averyhicks.com. You can call me at area code 405-295-4022. And you can also catch me at IG, Instagram at Get Your Ready On.
Awesome.
We're ready.
Thanks, Avery.
Appreciate it.
Have a great one. I'll send you this shortly.
All right. Thanks.
Bye.